the outlier, the someone who just does not fit in the mold. So, what does it mean to you, the combination, the wild ordinary?
Well, I like the complexity of it because they seem very opposite of one another. And yeah, most of us are, we wake up and we go through routine days, right? We do the mundane things, we do the taking of kids to school, going to work, all of those things. And that's the repetitive nature of life. But I also see the ability of it that it's all very quite fragile at the same time, that it can go sideways at any moment. I think we kind of wake up and go through the paces and expect the same things to happen, when in reality there, there's a lot of things like it just there's so many different directions it can go in, both at our own doing and outside of our doing as well. And I think that's the wildness that's there. Um, and then by saying it too, I'm also inviting in the physical world too, in the digital space and the consumption that we're in, and how we're flooded in life these days. Um, the outside really fuels the inside. And for me, what I've shared with sometimes, well, actually often, but my spirit animal is a fox, and I I'm lucky enough to be exposed to them on a regular basis here in our neighborhood. When I go out in the early morning and I'm walking our dogs, every now and again we'll see one, and I when I see them, I have uh, this huge feeling of luck inside me, and it just gets my heart beating on another level, that something good's going to happen. Something, there's something in the air here, and I, when I see them, good things do happen. It just, it's a byproduct, and I don't know if they plant the seed with me, or it's just something that fuels me. So that sort of wildness that's in there, that's a part of my ordinary, and it's almost, I love extending that to other people, by saying it and by putting it out there. And I'm hoping in some ways that it's helping to fuel people, um, in their everyday, and looking at what they're surrounded by, who they're surrounded by, what could happen or what is happening that might be pretty ordinary on some level. But when you look at it, maybe at the end of the day, after you've had that long day or that long week and you're tapped out for whatever reason, but that little something that's there that gives you that little boost that helps to segue you to the next day or the next week or the next month or year.
I love the lesson that comes up through there, or the encouragement, if not the lesson. It's the presence, being present in the moment and be curious and observant, even of the similar patterns of the mundane of the day to day. Because we often live almost like inside of our heads and inside our inner world, and we're just the outside world is passing us by, and we feel, oh, I've been driving on this road every day. Like, what is there to see? Why am I supposed to be paying attention? I'm just gonna be thinking about the work. I'm just gonna be obsessed about something happening. We will be living in the future, what's going to happen in the office, or we're living in the past, what just happened in the office. And I love that the way you explain the wild ordinary really brings in the reminder of the importance of being present and paying attention and noticing tiny little details, because that's such a wonderful thing in our life. If we are present and observant and curious, we feel more at ease and at peace, and we feel more energized and curious and creative. So that's a fantastic little lesson.
Yeah, and I mean, it really helps to slow things down. It just really brings everything to, I don't, that's at least that's what it does for me. And it just seems these days that, life is very fast. There's a lot coming at us. And yeah, I'm just feeling this calling to, I don't know. I'm trying to think. Like, there's different words that come to mind. There's, the productivity trap that we should be doing, that we should be ticking boxes and all of these things. But more and more these days for me, I'm leaning away from metrics, away from data. I'm leaning into whatever feels right. I'm letting my heart dictate that. It's literally almost as if, my heart is the barometer, right? And the beating of it is, hey, that's the right thing to do. This is the right way to lean. This feels good. I want to sit with this right now, with whatever it is, or with whomever it is. And I'll share that often out on LinkedIn. I'll just say, hey, wherever you are, whomever you're with, just lean in. And that's all you need to do within that space, and so many good things can happen, so many good things.
It's funny that you mentioned the heart, because I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were talking about very much coming out of our brains and into our heart, and allowing emotion to lead us and not thought. And it's because we can think we need to do something. That's where the shoulding comes in, the shoulding all over yourself. But when you allow heart or the emotion to come in, it can take you in a totally different direction, because it's almost like you are leading yourself then, without the brain telling you where to go. Because we can be very logical about something, like you said, we can tick all those boxes, but the heart isn't interested in ticking boxes. It's interested in almost the human that's
Yeah.
carrying the heart, and wants you to go somewhere else. And I love how you brought that up. And for me, it was quite ironic, having heard this talk. It was only a short snippet of the podcast I was listening to, but it was all about coming out of the brain and coming more into our emotions, and more being heart led as opposed to brain led. And here you talking about it. I love how things in our life can have this synchronicity of, you hear something and then somebody else is mentioning it, and they connect the two. So for me, thank you so much for that, because this is something that has just been this week. It's ironic, it's just happened this week. One thing I'd love to ask you is, and feel free to say if you don't want to share it or not, but we have had a guest, talking about vision quests and talking about nature and all that. And you've now spoken about your animal guide is a fox. Can you, or would you share a little bit about, how did you connect with your animal guide? How did you go down that path? Because like you said, you work in energy, which is quite I gather, a data driven, environment. And then you connect almost with your, shall I say, your inner John, and have this animal guide that helps you. And I know this is something that some of our listeners would be interested in. I'm interested in, is how do you connect, you personally, how did you connect to your animal guide?
Well, that's pretty interesting. I mean, the energy piece is more of, I would say, out of necessity, right? To make ends meet. So it's sort of that necessary evil that I'm doing what I need to do to provide for my family. I would arguably say that, my life exists in all of the places outside of that building and outside of that function. Everything else is what brings me alive. And, the creative aspect of my life, the photography, is just something I've just always felt that I needed. I needed that outlet to make and connect. The fox aspect of things is just, it's a beautiful animal that I'm lucky enough to see on an occasion. And what I love about the fox, and how I feel like I'm very similar to it, photographically, I'm on the edges of things. The way I envision foxes are on the edges, and you may or may not see them, right? You may or may not see me as a photographer on the scene, because I'm a documentary based photographer. So I'm less of the grip and grin and look here and look at me and what I'm doing. It's not about me. It's about the person or the event or wherever I am. So I'm always on the fringes. I'm always on the edges of the outside looking in and getting closer, similar to the fox. And I let curiosity be my guide, similar to the fox. And if I'm interested, I'll stay and I'll move in and I'll get closer. And if I'm disinterested or if I've had my fill, I move on. So we're very similar in that sense. And I can't, I guess I can't prescribe it to other, I don't know if I make other people feel lucky, but I know that fox makes me feel lucky. I mean, I hope, I guess, totally outside of that or related to it is just, I love seeing people light up, right? I love helping people move in the direction that they're going in and or just supporting whatever they're doing. That seems to be the direction that I'm focused on these days. And whether the day job and the photography and everything, if they're all kind of coalescing and help enabling me to do that, like that's my driver these days is joy, I guess. In the simplest term is just seeing people, just seeing that little spark for whatever reason. And that comes in a myriad of ways. It could just be, giving, smiling at someone. It could be sharing their story. If I'm out on LinkedIn, like reposting something that someone said, it could be leaving someone a voice memo. It could be sending a postcard to someone so that they're surprised in the mail that they weren't expecting it, or sending them a book. Just all of these little things, which is something else I'll say, like the little things are the big things, right? Those are the things that matter at the end of the day. And yeah, I find I'm kind of rambling right now. I'm going down a bunch of different paths, but it's sort of that's what lights me up, is seeing that come alive in other people. And yeah, I guess I'll leave it there.